Welcome back to Knicks for Clicks. No Bryce today. He's off partying in Vegas, so it's just me hanging out over here. We'll talk about the Knicks a little bit. I'm going to the game tonight, which is a crazy story, which we'll get into also if you're interested, because I do think it's an interesting story for fans, what the Knicks have done. But the Knicks obviously have taken game one. It's a huge deal that the Knicks took game one, and we're getting ready for game two tonight, just reposting that on Twitter. So if people want to jump in, talk about the Knicks, get in the comments. We'll talk to you guys about the Knicks because I'll be otherwise talking to myself because this is live right now on YouTube and Twitter, which we've been doing Sunday nights, but we want to do it as often as possible, pre games or post games, depending, as often as possible for these Knicks playoff games because it's fun and it's fun to have the Knicks back in the playoffs. The vibe at the Garden, the energy at the Garden has been on fire. Other than the fans outside the building after the game, which I'm happy it's taken this long. It's taken too long, but finally the fan base, the Knicks fan base, has turned on those fake fans outside of Madison Square Garden who are hooting and hollering after every single game, singing and dancing. It's mostly young kids, just like, oh, we won a game. Act like you've been there because at this point the Knicks have been there in the Jalen Brunson era. If you want to go back to the beginning of the Julius Randle, Tom Thibodeau era, the Knicks pretty consistently make it at least to the second round of the playoffs. Now, Bryce and I both talked about what we think our ceiling is. Their ceiling is this year. We talked about it with JJ. We talked about it with Gio. We talked about it with Salicata. So obviously, every guest on the show, we've talked about what we think their ceiling is. No one said they're losing in the first round. And anyone who said that just doesn't watch basketball or was disrespecting the Knicks, which there's a lot of. That's why we have a show called Knicks for Clicks. There's a lot of Knicks disrespect out there because people do it just to get clicks on social media. I'm not one of those people, obviously. The show is not one of those shows that does that. So, again, hanging out, talking Knicks, comment away. If you guys want to join in, we could do that also. But I do have some takeaways from game one before we get into anything else. My point is, oh, by the way, back to the Garden is have fun, enjoy it, live in the moment, enjoy the fact that this team is in the playoffs because sometimes it's so hard to enjoy these moments because the expectations are so high and we're just trying to, oh my God, they need a win. And there's all this pressure that we put on it. And we forget to actually embrace the fact that they're in the playoffs and have fun with it. So don't do that. Definitely enjoy it. But don't be one of these fools dancing because they won a game one against the Hawks. Now, game one against the Hawks was awesome because Jalen started it, but Cat finished it. And that's exactly how this game should look. And I do want to push back. There was a narrative, a little bit of a narrative. I was on Evan and Tiki today filling in because Tiki was out. So I was working with Sean and Evan. And I forget which one. I think it was Sean who said, well, karl-Anthony Towns wasn't great in the first half offensively. I'd push back on that. It wasn't that he wasn't great. He didn't have to be great. He was involved, though, offensively. He was part of almost every single motion. They were running everything through him from the top of the key with the two-man game that we saw work so well in the last two games of the year. We saw it continue, but it wasn't just him and Brunson. Brunson got going, just hitting his shots. He was at that point. I don't know if I've ever seen him as locked in as he was in that first quarter. When he hits the jab step, one step dribble jumper, like that's the Carmelo Anthony move. And I know it's CJ McCollum's not the greatest defender at this point in his career, but that was such a good move by Jalen Brunson. I don't know if we've seen him pull that move out, just like a one jab pull up jumper. And the ball, I don't even think it touched the net. That's how pure it was. It just went straight through, never even touched the net. Like one of those swishes where the net doesn't even move are so cool. And Jalen nailed that one. And he was in his zone early on. But all of that was coming off of the action that they were running with karl-Anthony Towns. Obviously the play that's kind of like the poster play for what they did was when they run the two-man game with Jalen and Cat. It's a pick and pop. Jalen kicks it back to Cat. Cat finds Hart because help comes over to Cat. Hart cuts. Cat finds Hart, and he kicks it to the wide open corner for Mikal for three. That's the play that everyone's going to think about. Like, oh my God, this is what this offense could be. This is what this offense should look like. And it's what we've been crying for all year. This was what Mike Brown was brought in to do. And it finally is starting to look that way at certain times. But it was more than that. It was how many times. And some of the passes were off. Like, they had a lot of turnovers in this game. And we'll get to those turnovers in a second because of passes from karl-Anthony Towns that were just a little bit too far. They were trying to get those passes in there fit because that's what the offense was doing. The offense was doing that so well that this team was off that action, guys cutting back door, guys opening the corners. There is so much that they could do off that action, but it all starts with the two-man game at the top of the key, and Karl was involved. So yes, he wasn't shooting a ton. He didn't have to shoot a ton because of how involved he was on the offensive side. Now on the other side, yeah, Jalen Brunson just knocking down every single shot. And that's important. You wanted to see him get going early. And everyone talks about Jalen Brunson as a playoff riser because, oh, Jalen Brunson's having a down year scoring. Oh, he's not scoring as many points as he did the last couple of years. Then it comes to the playoffs, and none of that matters. None of the talking points matter because everyone talks about how Jalen Brunson, is he really a one? Cade Cunningham's better than him. This guy's better than him. That guy's better than him. Everyone's better than Jalen Brunson until it's time to beat Jalen Brunson. And that's when Jalen Brunson shines and he comes through. And it's in the clutch moments at the end of the game, which we'll get to. And it's the beginning of the game, setting the tone early in the playoffs. That was awesome because it got the Garden crowd into it, got the place fired up. And no matter what the Hawks were doing in that first quarter, Jalen Brunson had an answer. He was just coming back, scoring on every single possession. So seeing that early in this game was fantastic. It was a great sign for the Knicks fans, the way he started this game. And then the turning point, I think, for karl-Anthony Towns, because I said he was involved offensively more than he gets credit for in that first half. The shots may not have shown it, the shot attempts may not have shown it, but I think he was involved very much and was a huge part of the offense in the first half. But what happens to start the third quarter, and this is going to be a big talking point going into tonight's game, is obviously the kick up by CJ McCollum. Now, let's get into it for a second. It was not intentional. I'll give you that, CJ. He called Jalen a flopper. He said, we thought we were on Broadway. You want to see a flopper? Go watch the OKC game, where I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shot 17 free throws in that game, which is just astonishing. And he said, well, when you drive to the rim, you're going to get fouled. You want to see drive to the rim? Go watch Denny Avdia play. That's what it looks like to drive to the rim. Denny Avdia is driving to the rim, putting pressure on the rim. They call him, I think, Drive Denny or something like that, and Turbo, a bunch of nicknames basically because he loves driving to the rim. So you go watch him. That's what driving to the rim looks like. What you're doing is just getting to the paint and throwing your arms up. You're not trying to score. Denny's getting to the rim. LeBron James, the guy who drives to the rim full out of steam, trying to get a bucket. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just trying to get into the paint and then draw a contact. He's not even trying to get to the rim. He's not trying to finish at the rim. He's not trying to score. He's just trying to get contact. He's playing for the contact, not playing for the basket. So that's what flopping looks like, which was just, it was driving me insane watching that game. I don't know how anyone enjoys watching the Thunder play, which is a shame because they're a good team and he's a really good player, but it's impossible to watch him play. So CJ McCollum seems to think that that's what Jalen Brunson was doing. He was not. He was defending you like anyone, a normal guy would play defense. CJ McCollum's playing defense Jalen Brunson's playing defense on CJ McCollum, and CJ kicks his leg up at him. Now, do I think that he kicked him on purpose? No, but the foul was not for kicking him on purpose. Intent didn't matter. It was a flagrant foul or I guess they call it a technical foul for a non-basketball move is what they called it. And kicking up into someone's body, because if you could do that every time without any repercussion, then guess what? No one would be able to play defense because no one could stand there and watch you kick them in the balls every single time. Like, it's ridiculous. We've seen Draymond Green try that a bunch of times and he's gotten away with it a couple times. Other times it cost them a championship, right? Like, think about if he doesn't kick LeBron in the balls, then Kevin Durant they probably win that championship. Kevin Durant never becomes a Warrior and like the snowball continues to fall. Like, the outcomes that we talk about from that, just that one play of Draymond Green being a total dirty player and kicking LeBron in the balls, like that is the outcomes that came from that. Anyway, not the point. The point is that CJ McCollum, that's what you were doing. You were being Draymond Green on that play. Yes. Am I calling it a dirty play? No. Is it intentional? No. But it was still a technical foul for a non-basketball play. And so the call was right. But here's where the point that matters, because I do think, and if you're going to the game tonight, Knicks fans, lock in. This is where we show that we're a great basketball city, not by standing around outside the building and chanting, oh, F Trae Young, when he's not even on the team anymore. And it's been 5 years and this is a completely different team. And that's a completely different team. By the way, the Hawks fans hate Trae Young too. Trust me. So don't do that. Don't be a fool. Don't be standing around chanting weird things after winning one game. Don't be chanting, we want Boston, because look how that's working out right now for the Sixers fans. What you should be doing instead is every time CJ McCollum touches the ball tonight, he should get booed, because it's not that he kicked Jalen Brunson. You kicked our captain, that's fine. But then the comments after the game, oh, he thinks we're on a Broadway show. Okay, we'll show you what a Broadway show is like. Because CJ McCollum, and I said this going into the series, I said he was going to be similar to a Dennis Schroeder from last year, or any of those veterans that you saw aside from Tobias Harris on the Pistons last year. Tobias Harris, I mean, there are three things you could count on in life: death, taxes, and Tobias Harris missing wide open shots in the postseason. That guy constantly miss out. Watching him last night was awesome against the Magic. And I'm watching the game and I'm like, are we sure the Magic roster, just from a roster perspective, both coaches are terrible, but from a roster perspective, are we sure the Magic roster is so much worse than the Pistons roster? Like, Cade Cunningham, solid player, obviously a really good player, I would say, but Paolo was playing great last night. He was going step for step with Cade. And if you kind of equal those two out. The rest of the roster is much better, I think, for the Magic. I don't think that's a debate. Now they had a very disappointing season. Obviously, the last game of the season was disappointing to watch as a Knicks fan, and having to root for the Magic in that game was horrible. But I don't think the Magic are that much worse than the Pistons. It's crazy that it's an 8-1 matchup. Not the point. I digress. The point is that you need to find that guy who's going to be the villain of this series. And the Hawks are a fun young upstart team. Like there's no one on that team. Nikhil Alexander Walker, these guys are fun to watch. They kind of root for a team like that because the Knicks were once that team, and every fan base can relate to a team like that. That's fun to watch. I don't have an issue with them until you're the veteran, who, by the way, is being leaned on way more than you should be, because that's what happens in these types of series. You get into a series where it gets tough and the whistle's not coming the same way, and all of a sudden the environment's louder than you're used to. That's what we're seeing right now with the um, with the Knicks and the Hawks, and it happens with a lot of these young teams. And you're watching a guy, CJ McCollum, having to take a lot more of the load than he would have had to otherwise. You've now become the number one villain in this series, CJ McCollum. You've now become the guy that Knicks fans are going to turn their ire to, and they're going to look at and say, that's enemy number one. So tonight, if you're at Madison Square Garden, I want to hear it every single time he touches the ball, every single time CJ McCollum is on the floor. He touches the ball like they do at a hockey game when a guy gets the puck on his stick in the hockey playoffs, and there's a guy he has a big hit early in the first round, all of a sudden, or game one of a round, all of a sudden he's booed every single time. The same thing should be happening to CJ McCollum. Every time he touches the ball, boo him. Be in his head. Make other guys beat you. The fans can actually control that. You can have an impact on the game, because if you're booing him every time he touches it, he gets across the timeline. He's not even looking to make a move, and he's like, oh, he starts hearing it, he passes it up. Or maybe now that's what you should be hearing. And I'm going to be in the building. I said it already. I'm going to start the boos. If they don't start, I'm going to start every time CJ McCollum touches the ball. He should be hearing the entire Madison Square Garden crowd boo. And it should start, by the way, from the pregame, like the pregame intros. That's when they should start booing him right away, right off the rip. He's made himself enemy number one, which is crazy, not from the kick, but from the comments after the kick. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And I think he's important for this team. But where the kick really changed the game for the Knicks, because that kick to the groin to start the third quarter changed the game, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. And where it changed the game mostly was you saw Rick Brunson come over and talk to Jalen after the review. They announced it's a technical foul. They announced that the Knicks are going to get to shoot one at the free throw line. Rick walks over to Jalen, says something to him. And we don't know for sure this is what was said. But right after that, Jalen steps aside and lets Karl-Anthony Towns walk to the free throw line. Towns, who had, yes, very involved, like I said earlier, on the offense early on, but struggled shooting in the first half. He walks inside and he takes that free throw. And that free throw, he sees one go through. The rest of the game, he's knocking down threes. He's driving to the rim. His confidence level was raised to another level. Another thing about Towns, because yes, I do think that he could have had a better offensive first half, even though I do think he had better than what the stat sheet might have said. He still could have been better offensively. He didn't let that impact him defensively. He wasn't making dumb fouls. He wasn't getting angry. He wasn't getting fed up with the referees. He was going hard on defense. He was playing great defense. He had a couple of deflections, a couple of steals, a couple of block shots, and the guy's energy, you saw it at the end of the game. Yeah, I'm an effing dog. All the different things he's saying. This guy is as locked in, as focused as we've seen him in the postseason. And this is what we need to see now. It's one game. What we talk about, can we see 2 months? That's the question. I talked about some of the questions that we asked our guests that we had on the show. But one of the big things we talked about is how long can we see Karl-Anthony Towns play at this level locked in? I think we've seen him pretty much consistently locked in at this level since the All-Star break. If you want to go back that far, you could point back to the All-Star break that he's been locked in, at least defensively, mentally, and now since maybe the end of the last couple of weeks of the season, offensively also. And it's funny that the offense has been the one to lag behind, but that's kind of what's been happening with him. Can this last another 2 months? I don't know. I need it to last at least another 2 series, because I think if this keeps happening, if Jalen looks as good as he did in the first half, and I know he tailed off a little bit in the second half, and Cat looks as good as he did in the second half and really the whole game, they should make quick work of the Hawks. It should be a quick series, and then you get ready for Boston and see what comes there. Because if they're still playing like this when they reach Boston, I'm not scared of Boston either. I'm not scared of anyone. If Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson are playing the way they're playing, if Karl-Anthony Towns is hitting his threes, if he's playing with that kind of energy on both sides of the floor, the Knicks are going to the conference finals and to the NBA finals for sure if this keeps happening. Can it keep happening? That's the question that we're looking for. And we look to see it tonight. Now, what's interesting, because the Knicks kind of beat the Hawks at their game. If you look at there was a crazy fast point disparity where that's where the Hawks thrive. They thrive on fast break points, and yet the Knicks were the ones with the heavy lead in the fast break points. And I mentioned earlier, the Knicks had a lot of turnovers. It wasn't like the Knicks weren't turning the ball over. That's really how you avoid teams from getting fast break points, is take care of the basketball, turn the ball over. But something interesting, the Knicks had very, very few live ball turnovers. If you look at a lot of their turnovers, it was they threw a ball out of bounds. They passed it to the wrong guy. They're trying to make these cuts, and that's where they had their turnovers. Their turnovers were dead ball turnovers, a couple of offensive fouls, a couple of moving screens, which again, Karl didn't let it get in his head, and then compound that with another mistake. He had the moving screen called him, okay, move on, next play, which is like, again, who is this guy? Like, what kind of therapy is he going to that all of a sudden he's able to just move on and go to the next play? But that was the biggest thing. The Knicks, even when they were turning the ball over more than you'd like, they were dead ball turnovers. They weren't turnovers that meant points the other way for the Hawks. So that was something great to see. And you have to see that moving forward. We talk about some of the X factors coming into the series, and I got to give my guy Bryce credit, because Bryce, he's hanging out in Vegas right now, having the time of his life. He'll be back. We'll be back doing this together. We'll have episodes later this week. We'll be going live after games, all that stuff. So all that fun stuff. Stay tuned. Stay locked into these channels. We'll obviously keep you updated on here, on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you follow us. But my guy Bryce, give him credit, because he said the X factor in this series was going to be Mitchell Robinson. Game one, Mitchell Robinson, and it's more than just the impact on defensively, because he was insane. Again, all over the place defensively. Even when you get him switched onto a guard, it's not a mismatch. Like, usually you get a center switched onto a guard on the perimeter. It's like, all right, go to work, go, dance around. No, there was no mismatch there. All of a sudden he's matching right up. And that is just incredible to watch him go to work defensively. But offensively, the offensive rebounds, he's become such a menace in this series that teams are doing what we've seen now the last couple of years. We saw Joe Mazzulla do it that last year. We saw Quinn Snyder do it in game one, and that is they're just going to keep fouling him to get him out of the game. But what happens is, and if you look at the game afterwards, you're like, oh, the free throw disparity. You just complained about SGA's three free throw disparity. How can you not look at yourself in the mirror? Look at the Knicks. Look at that free throw disparity. Well, because I'm being intellectually honest about this, and two things can be true at once, that there could be free throw disparity in one case, and it's because of a guy's flopping, and there could be free throw disparity in another case, and it's for a different reason. And in this case, it's when they brought in Mitchell Robinson early in the third quarter. They brought him earlier than they would normally. Quinn Snyder fouled and got to the bonus so early just to get Mitchell Robinson out of the game that, yes, did it take Mitchell Robinson out of the game? And ultimately, I do think it slowed down the Knicks offense, because when you're shooting free throws every time, there's no rhythm, there's no flow. So the Knicks offensive rhythm did slow down significantly in that third quarter. Yes, that's part of it. But what happened then is the Knicks decided, all right, we're out of offensive rhythm. We're kind of out of sync. Let's just drive to the basket. So even once Mitchell Robinson was off the floor, he got fouled off the floor. It doesn't matter. We're going to go put pressure on the rim and get free throws as often as possible. And that's what happened the rest of that game. Also, obviously, the Knicks were intentionally fouled at the end of the game to hit free throws at the very end, which we'll talk about in a second also, because that lends itself to the free throw disparity. But the biggest thing was the intentional fouls in the third quarter. There were tons of fouls and tons of foul shots in the third quarter because Mitchell Robinson was fouled off the floor. That was the strategy. And so while it kind of hurt the Knicks offense a little bit, and it obviously hurts not having him out there, keep forcing him to do that. Bring him in early in quarters where he has to make a decision. And that's the Hawks' decision. Are we going to force fouls and get the Knicks into the bonus early? And now they can just play the free throw game the rest of the quarter and keep putting pressure on the rim. And now we have to collapse defensively. And now that leads to open threes and kickouts and all the different things that leads to. Or do we let Mitchell Robinson play and wreak havoc on what we're trying to do, both offensively and defensively, because that's how good he's been. Another guy, you talk about rebounds and energy plays. It's so amazing to me how many people go through like the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride of a season and talk about Josh Hart. And for some reason this year, maybe the Knicks have more fans than they've had in the past, more people paying attention in the regular season than they've had in the past. I don't know what it is. People who just don't understand basketball at an elite level and watch Josh Hart in a regular season game and don't understand what he does. And some people wanted him benched in the regular season in place of someone else in the starting lineup. And then you watch the playoff game, you're like, right, every 50-50 ball, every single hustle play, every rebound, ripping them down from everywhere. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. He is a key for this team. It's unbelievable how you get into one of these playoff games and it's intangibles that you can't quantify. Now, he had great stats in the game also, don't get me wrong, but the intangibles that you cannot measure that he brings to a game, just the energy and the way the Garden feeds off, and you so clearly see how Mikal and Josh Lee feed off, and Jalen feed off of his energy. Josh Hart's energy in these games, he's built for playoff moments at Madison Square Garden, and the whole team feeds off it. Yes, he'll have nights where he's killing you shooting and guys start sagging off of him. He'll make up for it with everything else that he does. And then everyone, like, that's what was awesome about game one. I don't think the Knicks played their A-plus game offensively. I still think they could play better. We talked about the turnovers. We know Jalen wasn't great in the second half. Cat wasn't incredible shooting the ball in the first half, well, although I do think he had a great offensive first half. Mikal early, getting early buckets. How big is that when you unlock him early? And of course, we talked about the three off that great movement. OG knocking down shots early, the step back three. Like sometimes it's like OG just decides to be prime Kawhi Leonard for a couple possessions, first stretch in a game when Jalen's off the floor, and you're like, wait, what? I mean, you had contributions from everyone. You didn't have a great Shamit game, which again tells me great, perfect. We didn't have a great Shamit game, we still won. So there will be great Shamit games moving forward. He was one of my X factors in this series. Solid Deuce game, a solid Deuce game where he hit a couple of threes in the second half. And then I really thought a very, very good Clarkson game, both offensively and defensively. Also had a couple of hustle plays. He had that putback where he just was the fastest to get to the ball and got the offensive rebound and putback. So I think there was tons to like from this first game, and it just felt like a ho-hum win until the last few minutes where, oh my God, this was where I was pulling my hair out because the PTSD that I had at the end of the fourth quarter when all of a sudden they go on the Hawks go on an 11-0 run, and I'm thinking back to game 1 against Indiana, and I'm like, "Oh my God, no, this can't be happening again. How is this happening again?" And luckily, the Knicks slammed the door and they didn't let it get to that point. And it never really got that close because the Knicks were up 20 something points at that point, and it was too late by the time the Hawks went on that run. But all the Tom Thibodeau haters who claimed that it was because the Knicks couldn't close out games, which was stupid because they had two 20-point comebacks or three 20-point comebacks of their own against Boston and Indiana, where they closed out the game better than anyone. But apparently the excuse was we couldn't close out games, and that's why Tom Thibodeau was fired. Well, where were you closing out games when all of a sudden the Hawks go on an 11-0 run? Because that would have been disastrous for the New York Knicks. There was an interesting point in this game where I thought Quinn Snyder was putting his chips on the table. He's like, "Hey, this is our time to make a run." And I think it was either Ian or Stan who called it on the broadcast, but they did a great job with it, which was they mentioned that, hey, the Hawks starters are in right now. Like this is the beginning of the fourth quarter. Their starters are in. It's their chance to go on a run. And the Knicks had their whole bench, other than I think OG was the only starter in. And the Knicks were the one who controlled the tempo. And that's when Deuce had a great couple of minutes and Clarkson had a great stretch. So that was huge. And then they hold serve just enough time to bring Karl back in the game, who came in a little earlier than Jalen. He hits a couple of the dagger threes, makes a couple of dagger plays on the other side, and that's it. And that's going to be the key for game 2. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep making the Hawks play in the half court, because when the Hawks have to play in the half court, they are not the same team. They can't run and gun. And the Knicks, I said that they can up their tempo and pace to play with the Hawks. But the better advantage for the Knicks, and Bryce was on this also, is slow the Hawks down. If you slow the Hawks down and make them play at your tempo, and now the Hawks have to play in the half court, they are not. No, it's not close. They can't keep up at all with the Knicks. There is no comparison between the two teams. The Knicks are the far, far better team if you're making the two teams play at the same pace in the half court. So I look for that more in this game. And look, it was an awesome win in game 1, but it's just one game. And that's why I'm not partying outside Madison Square Garden. I'll be there tonight, and I'll see what the energy is like. Like, I understand if you're there, it's hard not to get wrapped in the energy, especially someone like me. I don't have a lot of money. I'm not someone who's going to be going to a lot of playoff games. I got lucky with this game. And if you don't know, the Knicks now the Knicks are doing something different this year with tickets. They're doing something that I actually like. You cannot resell tickets, and they're not available to transfer if you buy playoff tickets until 24 hours before the game. That means you can post them on secondary market on StubHub, SeatGeek, Vivid Seats, and I have all these apps, Game Time. I'm monitoring all of them 24/7 when I'm trying to go to a game. You can post them, but you cannot send the tickets until last minute, which makes it very annoying to post So what ends up happening is most people aren't going to post till the 24-hour period when they can actually post them and send them at the same time, and they don't have to worry about it. It's hands free. But the fact that tickets aren't getting posted or sent out until 24 hours before game time means that the markups aren't going to be as much because now people are like, hey, we just need to get rid of these tickets. And what ended up happening in game one, I saw a lot of people posting this online. It's about 6:30, 7 o'clock. The game's already underway. We're halfway through the first quarter, or sometimes I think it was at the end of the first quarter, somebody posted, there are still tons of tickets left available on Ticketmaster, resale tickets, and people weren't lowering the prices because they'd rather take the loss on the tickets as a whole, which is insane to me, than to take a little bit of a loss and sell the tickets for lower than they paid for. So you're basically forcing people to pay around, or sell them at least around what they paid for, unless you're one of the idiots who's deciding, oh, I need to be in the building and I'm going to buy it on the secondary market more than 24 hours in advance, which I understand. Now, what ended up happening on Saturday night was right after the Knicks win, then the Knicks send out, I'm part of this fan first program, and I get a text on my phone, fan first, whatever tickets. We dropped a bunch of new tickets, and that's what the Knicks did. And if you went on Saturday night, there were still no resale tickets on Ticketmaster, so it was just tickets direct from the team, and they had tickets. And again, these numbers, I'm going to say low. They're not low. It's still Madison Square Garden. It's still New York. It's still very expensive. And if you can't afford this, I can't barely afford this. Like, I saved up, meaning there were a couple of games in the regular season I was trying to go to at the end of the year. I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather go to a postseason game. And I held back and I didn't go to games. Like, this is something that I wanted. I didn't go to a playoff game last year because it was just too expensive. So, but there were tickets as cheap, and again, I put that in quotations, as $220 when the secondary market was starting at 330. So it was still $110 cheaper. Again, you're sitting on the roof, but I was able to snatch up one of those tickets when they had that secondary release, when they released more tickets. And now I'm curious to see, because what's going to happen, especially as they get later and deeper rounds, if people are losing money on a consistent basis, where every night, every time they post tickets, like, no one's taking these because I'm only allowed to post them within 24 hours. What's going to end up happening is people are just going to, by default, lower their tickets or just decide to go to the games themselves. And eventually prices are going to come down. It's now 3:30 as I'm doing this, and my phone's taking forever to load. But right now, the cheapest that I'm seeing is like $330 on the secondary market. So maybe it's holding, but if I'm a Knick fan and I want 326, if I want to get into the building tonight, I would go stand outside my Madison Square Garden. And if you don't get in, go to American Whiskey, go to one of the bars right next door. There's watch parties on right outside Madison Square Garden that the barricades are already set up for today. So, like, go hang out there. And then worst case scenario, you hang out and watch the game there. But best case scenario, one of these people panics and is like, I got to get rid of these. And hopefully they don't do what they did in game one. And they actually get rid of the tickets and you get a great deal on a seat. That's what I would do. I feel like very confident that I got a decent deal because I got from the actual team from the drop. But I think the Knicks have done a good job of controlling that a little bit. And the point is that, look, it's hard not to get swept up in the emotion. If it's the one playoff game you're going to go to, like, this is likely the only playoff game I'm going to this year. I don't have the kind of money to drop another $200 on a playoff ticket or $230 on a playoff ticket. So this is probably, unless I get one of those last minute deals that I just talked about in a later round against Boston, whatever, if they go beyond that, this is probably the only playoff game I'm going to this year. So the point in all that is, it's hard not to get wrapped up in the emotion and the dancing outside Madison Square Garden and the partying. Luckily, I have to be up at 6 a.m. for work, so I'll probably have to take the train back to New Jersey and go home pretty quickly. So I don't think I'll spend a ton of time hanging out outside Madison Square Garden, especially with an 8 p.m. start tonight. Realistically, probably doesn't tip till 8:15, and then by the time it's over, it's 11 p.m. by the time I'm downstairs. So, look, I think that obviously I'm not going to be celebrating. I think that's not real Knicks fans. And maybe they are. Sean Morris made a good point. He's like, yeah, they are real Knicks fans. They're just very young Knicks fans that haven't experienced anything like this, that they're just watching other people on social media the last few years act crazy. Like, they can't act like they've been there because they haven't been there. They think this is the thing to do. But I'll just advise some of the younger Knicks fans, guys, act like you've been there. It's one game. They won game one. We're happy about that. Hopefully they continue to do that. Hopefully they win game two tonight. But I'm not going to be one of those people partying outside Madison Square Garden. While I will enjoy, I'm not telling you not to enjoy the win. You should enjoy the win or any game, not even the win. I enjoy the moment. Like, unless they get blown out tonight, I'm going to be watching and enjoying it, even if it's a tight game and my butt cheeks are clenched and I'm pretty tight watching this game, I'm still going to enjoy it because this is what you live for. This is playoff basketball. I'm going to be living and dying with every shot, and it's fun. You got to be able to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, what's it all worth? If you didn't, and I've talked about this so many times, if you were just angry about everything and complaining the whole time, and then they win the championship, wouldn't you be mad? Wouldn't you be like, man, I could have enjoyed that a little bit better? So that's my message to Knicks fans tonight. Now, as far as the matchup itself, I don't expect the Hawks to lay down. They're a young team, they're a hungry team. I think they could have a little momentum from that 11-0 run to end the game. I think they're going to try and come out and control the pace and and try and run up and down the court. And that's where the Knicks, I think their offense can take it to another level. You can really step on their throats. A young team going home down 0-2, this is the opportunity the Knicks have tonight at Madison Square Garden is to step on their throats and get this team out of the series before it even starts. I truly believe the Knicks are capable of doing that tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. I think that's the biggest opportunity you have right now is to kind of knock them out. They're down, but they're not knocked out yet. And I think Quinn Snyder's going to have adjustments. I think defensively they're going to have adjustments. They've been switching everything. I don't know if they're going to keep doing that. Like that didn't work. The Knicks got so much off of them trying to switch everything and double and run at the two-man game. Now, the Knicks have so many different things that they could do off of that. Like if they decide not to switch things, all of a sudden that creates a whole slew of problems for them also. And so where I think the Knicks were smart is they showed you some stuff that they could do off the two-man game. I think there's still so much more the Knicks can do. And the same thing is don't turn the ball over. The Knicks struggled with that a little bit in game one. And don't let the Hawks control the pace. Don't all of a sudden start trying to run up and down with them. The Knicks just keep doing what you're doing and improve on what you're doing. The Hawks have a lot to worry about. The Hawks have to worry about, will these young stars have their breakout moments in this game? Okay, you got a little taste of it on Saturday night, what a game looks like, what a game feels like at Madison Square Garden in the playoffs. Now, can you build on that? Can you play well in a game too? Or are you going to have to rely on CJ McCollum again to be your best offensive player? And if you do, I mean, this series is not going to last long. So I thought this series would last five. I did think the Knicks and Hawks would split the first two games, which unfortunately for me going to the game tonight means I predicted the Knicks would lose tonight. Now, expectations change. After watching game one, I do expect the Knicks to win tonight, but I still think the Knicks will win this series in five. But tonight, just don't change what you were doing. Don't get out of rhythm. Don't. I think they should come out the exact same way. Two-man game, trying to get open shots for Mikal early, trying to get open shots for OG early, maybe try and get Carl going a little bit earlier. And then Brunson, I don't think he's going to have as bad a second half as he had. That's another huge factor. What if he has a great second half as great as he had the first half? Like, did the Knicks win by 30? Like, that's another possibility here where we could see Jalen Brunson go off and sustain it for a full game. If he has a 30 or 40-point game like we've seen him do time and time again in the playoffs, like I mentioned, he is a playoff riser as I started the show. I think the Knicks win this game easily. So that's what I want to see tonight. I want to see you get this Hawks team, get them down early. Like they are feeling a little momentum maybe from the 11-0 run to end the game. They're feeling a little bit desperate right now. They have to win this game. They've seen what it feels like to play at Madison Square Garden. Knock them out early. If the Knicks get on a heater early to start this game, get off to a fast start, I would expect the Hawks to kind of fold early and the Knicks to go up 2-0 in the series. So those are some of the keys to the game. Keep doing what you're doing. And more Mitchell Robinson, like keep bringing him in early and make them make that decision. Do you want to foul him? Go ahead. You want to foul him and get us in the bonus early in the third or early in the second quarter? Have at it. And if you don't, well, Mitchell Robinson's going to cause havoc and wreak havoc on everything you're trying to do. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'm excited. I'm fired up. Hopefully we'll do a show again tomorrow. I'll talk to Bryce about his schedule. Otherwise it'll be me solo again. But I think this is the last show of just one of us solo. We'll talk again after game 2 and preview game 3 on Thursday. Let's go Knicks. It's Knicks for Clicks. Like, subscribe, share wherever you get your shows, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Twitter, and obviously on all podcast platforms. And until then, let's go Knicks. See ya.